Stick with the normal. We'll take a couple questions, and then we'll get you out of here. We'll start with Eric Scopel, 247 Sports.
Kelly, I wonder if this 8-day kind of an extended break here was needed after the Arizona game and kind of a rough couple of weeks, and what you guys were able to accomplish during that time.
Well, when you say a rough couple of weeks, we had a tough game at Arizona. I think before that we played relatively well. We lost 3 of 4. I get it, but I don't think the world's coming to an end. But yeah, it was nice to have a couple extra days. I think anytime this time of year you get in the meat of the schedule, an extra day off is fine. I would have much rather have played the game in Tempe, but we've turned our attention to Washington State.
Ryan Thorburn, registered guard.
Kelly, how did the team respond in practice? And have you seen any leaders kind of come out of the Arizona game? In past years, obviously you had some great leadership, especially number 20, that would have vocally and by example taken the baton. Have you seen that as well, and how have they responded?
We have had 2 really good practices this week. I thought both Monday and Tuesday, yesterday, we looked really good. We played really hard. They were competitive practices, the most competitive we've had in a while. Yeah, I think we're trying. You can tell people they're engaged, and I think they realize that we've got to be better this week. So I can tell there's been a little better focus. As in terms of the leadership, Ryan, yeah, you can tell some are trying. I think they realize this. They're in new territory as well. So they realize that we've got to do some things better. And like I said, they've come out more and more focused. I'm not necessarily going to say what players, because leadership comes in different forms. You look at somebody like Erin Boley, who's the consummate collegian. She's a very professional. She leads by example. She works hard. She's always prepared every day, has a good attitude, but you need leadership in different forms from different people, and it's manifested as such. So we're still work in progress in that regard.
James Crepea, the Oregonian.
Kelly, after the Arizona game, you mentioned looking into tightening the rotations a little bit, not asking you to give away every which person and whatnot, but has that started in practice in terms of who might get more time and who might get a little bit less time, and what that's starting to look like?
Well, I don't know about more or less time, but we've certainly put a certain unit together a little bit more this week. We've basically divided up our lineup most days in practice, pretty much the whole year. We've basically set on a group that we hope will really work for us, and then I think we'll just play it by ear for the rest of the game. But I don't know if you're going to see the same kind of revolving door. But again, that remains to be seen. It's still fluid in practice. I think we still have a lot of players that are vying for that time and competing.
Back to Eric.
Just an update on Sedona. I know last game it seems like she was limited in terms of the number of minutes she could play. Is that opening up a little bit, or kind of what's the progress been there?
Yeah, I was glad she got to play a little bit last week just to get her feet wet, and I thought she did a pretty good job. You can tell she's a little rusty. Has had a nice week of practice. She's still limited to some degree in what she can do during practice, but she should be ready to go for this week. I think she's really excited too, and I think she's been pain-free for the most part.
Max Torres, scooped up.
Yeah, Kelly, just talking about how last week was so, kind of away from your guys' identity. When you kind of tackle the task of regaining that identity, what are some of the things you're looking for from your team?
We can't turn the ball over as much. We can't deal with pressure in that way. We've got to be a little bit more patient offensively. I thought we took some really early shots. The one good thing that came out of that, you guys, we gave up 57 points. That's really a nice job to a team like that on the road. They had 20 in the first quarter, so to allow 37 points over the last 3 quarters is really getting it done. If you would have told me that we would have held them to 57, I would have said, well, we got a double-digit win. And obviously that wasn't the case. So, so there were some things to build on from that. It wasn't all bad down in the desert, but yeah, it was just, one of those games. I think we talked about it earlier. We knew that we were going to have some highs and lows, be a kind of a roller coaster at times. I didn't think it would quite look like that on the down, but we just got to get back up and do better this week. That's all I can say. I don't really know anything else to say in that regard. It's over. Hopefully we learned from it and we'll be better. We better be better on Friday, or else, the same could happen.
Back to Ryan.
Kelly, you alluded to it a week or so ago, but your win at Washington State turned out to be a big one considering how feisty they are. Now, I know they're coming off back-to-back losses, but both in overtime to good teams.
Yeah.
What's it going to take to sweep them, and why are they so good this year?
Well, they're good because they know who they are. I think their roles have been defined, and then they have two really great players, superstars. The two sisters are excellent, and their inside game is coming as well. They just have a bunch of kids that really know how to play. They don't make a ton of mistakes. They get good shots each and every time down. They have the ball in the right people's hands. They're a good team. They really are. And they defend well. They scout well. You can tell their kids stick to the scout. So we're going to have to be really good. Yeah, that game, that win up there has proven to be, a good win for us. I still see we're like fourth in the net. So, I think that kind of a road win always benefits you. But yeah, we're going to have to be equally as good this time, if not better.
Back to James.
Looking beyond even just Friday, Kelly, obviously Washington has postponed their game with OSU, but I realize contact tracing and timing could impact things. So beyond just, it could be another short week of one game, or you certainly hope it's two. Do you have any inclination as to when the ASU game may get made up? Will they come for like a couple days early for one of those? And Cal's on the brink. Is there any concern about them doing what Virginia did and calling it a season?
Well, there's always a concern, because this thing, you just don't know from day to day what's going to happen next. I'm hopeful that we will play on Sunday. I hope we don't have just one game. In terms of the makeup, James, I don't know how they're going to play that out. That's the first Pac-12 game we've missed. So if they prioritize and say, well, because there's only going to be so many games that are going to be able to be made up. And so they might go with the teams that have missed the most games. Maybe they'll have priority. I don't know. I haven't been told that. That's not ducking the question. That's just something that the Pac-12 has not told me. I know we have Oregon State on the last weekend. Everybody has their travel partners. I think that was done so that if you needed a makeup game or two, maybe that's where it could be slotted. We always have that extra week between the conference tournament and the NCAA tournament. I think there's been talk that time could also be used for makeup. Look at Stanford. Stanford's next week going up and playing Washington State Wednesday and Friday. So that's potential. I think it's still up in the air, big guy. I don't know. But where are you at? That looks like some man cave.
Yeah, I just don't like people looking in the back of my house, Kelly. It's actually a bar in New Orleans. But
that was my next guess. I don't have my glasses, but it looks like you got something going on there.
Yeah.
Andrew Hopner, KEZI.
For the record, I thought it was the bar from The Shining. So Kelly,
that's pretty appropriate. That's a good call there, Andrew, actually.
As far, Kelly, as to follow kind of up on what James said, coaches talk all the time about, controlling the things you can control. And this is kind of a season where there are a lot of things that are out of your control. If you're talking postponed games that could potentially impact seeding, for instance, when conference tournament time comes, how do you balance that as a coach, knowing that you can only control certain things, but those things may have a direct effect on what happens come March?
Yeah. I have a coaching friend of mine who I follow on Twitter. I've known him for a long time, and he every day tweets out, "Blessed to see another day." And I always kid him. I say, well, that's really setting a pretty low bar, like I'm alive again another day, but that's really kind of what you have to, you have to have that approach. We're just fortunate each and every day, Andrew, to be able to play. We don't, not knowing what tomorrow will bring. Listen, tomorrow will be, or not tomorrow, Friday will be our 13th game. That's the minimum number that you have to play to be NCAA tournament eligible. So it's an important game. We just want to get at least one more in case the worst happens. But I don't know if that answers your question or not. I went on a tangent there, but I really am proud of my team, man. I am. What they're going through, and all student athletes, is unlike anything obviously we've ever seen, and it's really hard on them. But I'm been so happy that they've had really good attitudes about this whole thing. We were all disappointed when the ASU game was canceled because we played on a Thursday. A, we wanted to get that taste out of our mouth, and B, we had an extra day to spend in the sun in the desert. So that was a little disappointing, but it's good to be back home. I'm excited to get out and play again on Friday, and this is a good opponent. It'll test us. I'm confident that we're going to play well. I really am.
Back to Eric.
Coach, I know you recruit internationally. How familiar were you with Charlize in particular, and the fact that she's come out and she's averaging 20 a game? I mean, and on a good team. Did you know much about her?
I saw her in Belarus. I went that summer. We were chasing some of the American kids. We were recruiting them, and we're in deep with some of them. And I did watch them play a couple times, and she was very impressive. At that time, she would have been part of this freshman class. We were in pretty deep with this crew already. I didn't see the need to, maybe get involved there. And she has proven to be everything that I saw and more. I don't think anybody saw this coming. And good on her. I mean, she reminds me of Sabrina in a lot of ways, Eric. She doesn't get sped up. She's strong and knows how to play the game. Sabrina never wowed anybody with her athleticism necessarily, even though she was a very good athlete, because athleticism to me is body control, strength, IQ. I think all that plays into it. And she is, she's very similar in that way. Yeah, she's quite a player.
Back to Max.
Kelly, Sabally's, definitely been one of the biggest bright spots of the team this season and in this recent stretch. What have you seen from her to play this well, and how have you been addressing, protecting the inside with Sedona kind of being up and down as she eases back in?
I'm sorry. It bugged out. What player?
Sabally.
Oh, Satu or Niara. Yeah, Niara's been great. She continues to be really impressive, especially on the boards. She's become our go-to player in a lot of ways. Works hard every day in practice. And she's got to continue to finish better and maybe get to the line a little bit more. But I'm really pleased with how she's playing. I think she's going to continue to grow, and we still have to remember she's played 12 games in 2.5 years. So she's still trying to work things out. I don't want to keep using that as an excuse, but it is relevant, I think. So yeah, I've been real pleased with her. We're going to need her down the stretch. If we hope to make a splash in the NCAA, and I still think we will, she's going to have to be a big part of that.
Got a couple more for you, Coach.
Yeah, no problem, you guys.
Next we got Ryan. Back to Ryan.
Kelly, did you know Cami Etheridge before this hire, and what's impressed you most about how she's turned it around there?
Well, she's a basketball person. She really is. She understands the game, loves the game, played the game at a high level. I don't think people realize she, I think, is in the Hall of Fame at the University of Texas. That's saying something. And she, I think is real confident in who she is and what she does. And her players, you can tell, are just very well coached. They know who they are. They play to their personality and to their strengths. And that comes from the coach. So I'm happy for her. Yeah, followed her career for years at Kansas State. When I was at Gonzaga, she always called. We always tried to set up a game, never made it work. And then followed her time at Northern Colorado. She did a great job there.
Brandon Cameraman, KVAL.
Hey, Kelly, we asked you before the season leading up to it what you expected to be playing with no fans. Now that you're 12 games in, is there anything that sort of surprised you, or do you feel like your players are mostly able to focus and it doesn't have an impact on the way they play and their attitudes?
No, I'd be lying if it said it didn't have an impact. I think they would love to at least have their families. That's still one of those things that I don't quite understand. But we need the fans. It's a bigger deal here. You know, we lose that game to UCLA, made two really great runs. You tell me that 12,000 fans in Matthew Knight Arena wouldn't have made a difference in a game like that? Of course it does. It's impacted our program, I think, more than most, because we really truly do have a home court advantage. And it's a shame, quite frankly. That's another reason why we were disappointed with the Arizona State game, because they're I think the only place right now that actually allows fans, and you can have family up to so many. So we actually had a few families that were flying out for that game, and I saw the disappointment some of our players whose families were going to be there. So. Yeah, I wish that there was a way. I go to Costco and rub shoulders with lots of people every time I'm there. We have a 12,000 seat arena. You know what I mean? I'll just leave it at that because I like Governor Brown.
All right, Coach, unless there's any last second questions.
That's probably going to be the soundbite, isn't it? You guys don't do me like that now.
I have a quick question. I'm so
Come
sorry,
on,
Coach.
AJ.
I'm sorry. I jumped on late, so I wanted to wait and make sure that everyone who was here on time got their questions in. But I saw Rob tweeting that you've just been really encouraged with the way the team has bounced back in practice since that loss. Is there any more insight, I guess, since we can't watch practice and we don't get to talk to the players more often? Who's sort of been leading that charge on your team to make sure that the bounce back continues?
Some of the returners, quite frankly. I think Aaron Boley's really tried to step up. I think Taylor Chavez as well. That's where it's got to come from. They're the ones that understand the culture. They've never been in this position before since they've been here. And so, they're trying to deal with something that's new to them and in roles that are new to them. So, but I've seen it. They're trying. We're trying. I mean, we're not excited with where we've been. We've taken a hit. I'm not going to lie to you. It happens. Stanford is going to discover that. I'm sure they've already discovered it this week. You take a hit, and it kind of rocks you for a second, and then you've got to regroup and fight your way through it. It's just human nature. And like I said, this is something that's very new to really everybody involved in our program right now, outside of the coaching staff who, our first couple of years, we had some ups and downs. So anyway, we'll see on Friday, man. We'll see. Win, lose, or draw. Hopefully we just look better, play harder, play with some more passion.
Thank you.
All right, Coach. I think that's it.
Okay. See you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.